I want to try something that may create a bit of chaos, but don't be afraid, you're safe here. But if you are a child and you got one of those little packets we gave you when you sang, I'd like you to open that packet and pull out the sheet with the stars on it. Can you find that sheet with the stars on it in your little coloring book packet? Can you pull that out? And what I want you to do is I want you to start putting those stars on the people around you. Go ahead and start putting stars up. Now be polite about it. And if you were handed a sheet of stars like this when you came in, you can do that too. Be nice, don't be rude, don't slap the stars on. Maybe you'll let the person put them on by themselves. Just, we want everybody to have a star. We want everybody to be a star today because there's nobody who doesn't like stars, right? We all love stars. When I was a kid, maybe this was true of you, when you were growing up, I don't know, did you get stars on papers? I was the kind of student who didn't get a lot of stars, so when the teacher said, I'll make you see stars, I was excited when they would actually give me stars. So everybody likes stars, and it's not just children that like stars, it's grown-ups that like stars. In the military, for example, if you have stars on your uniform, that means that you are an officer, you are a person of influence. We give stars to our heroes. We give bronze stars, and we give silver stars, and we give gold stars to the families who make the ultimate sacrifice. We recognize that stars are a part of our life, part of our world. I mean, we've got falling stars, and we've got rising stars, we've got shining stars. We can catch a falling star, we can wish upon a star. We got starfish and starships and Star Trek and Star Wars. We've got all kinds of stars. We have stars all over the place. Nobody doesn't like stars. I mean, even Lady Gaga told us that a star could be born. The Christmas story has a lot of stars. I mean, there's the North Star, the celestial star, the star that actually guided the wise men from the east to Bethlehem. Then there is the star at the center of the story. You could call him the superstar, the infant Jesus. And then there are the stars, the young stars, Mary and Joseph. And then there are the least likely stars, the shepherds. They were the least likely because they were the most unnoticed in their culture. They were people who lived outside of most people's everyday existence. They were gypsies. They were Bedouins. They lived out under the stars every day of their life. They lived outside on the fringes of society. They were the unnoticed. They were the outcasts. They were below the bottom rung of the social ladder. In fact, in the story of the birth of Christ, we don't know their story. We don't know how many of them there were. We don't know their ages. We certainly don't know their names. And it would be easy for us to say, well, they're not worth noticing. But they were noticed that night. And when God came near, he came near to them right where they are. And he said, I see you right where you are. And right where you are is where you can shine. You see, shepherds were only good at one thing. And that was watching sheep. It was caring for sheep. It was protecting sheep. It was tending sheep. It was identifying and knowing sheep. But in the nation of Israel, a sheep, a lamb, was more than an agricultural commodity. It was actually a representation of hope. It represented the second chance. It represented a do-over. Did you get some stars? You are so nice. Thank you, buddy. Boom. That was awesome. I'm a star now. So are you. And so were they. They tended sheep, and sheep represented forgiveness. You see, in the spiritual economy of the nation of Israel, a lamb was offered as the mechanism for achieving forgiveness. The flaws of the people, the failures of all of the people were representatively put on that lamb as it was offered for a sacrifice. And the shepherds were trained generation after generation to look for a special lamb. Because the lamb without imperfection was highly prized, the flawless lamb, the perfect lamb, because that was the one that was offered as a representative of the nation, offered as a sacrifice. And so every so often when a young ewe lamb would be born into a flock and identified by the shepherds as a flawless lamb, a lamb with perfect wool and perfect features, a lamb without defect, they would wrap that lamb in strips of cloth in order to protect it from the other sheep and from the thorns and from the wild that they lived in, so that they could present that flawless lamb to the priests, so that that lamb could be the representative to take on the flaws and the failures of the nation. So when they went, as the angels had told them, to find this deliverer, and they found Mary and Joseph and that baby laying in a manger, they saw one wrapped in the same strips of cloth, and they knew right away what they were looking at. They knew they were looking at a flawless lamb. They knew they were looking at the one who, as the angels had promised, would be the Savior of the world. They were looking at their hope. You see, they were perfectly suited. The people that others overlooked, the people that others never noticed, the outcasts and the misfits, they were the ones who were perfectly suited to identify this one as the flawless lamb. They knew it when they saw it. And the story that they told to everyone was that this one was the one that they had been searching for, that all of humanity was searching for. And the story that they tell is the same story that we tell. That God comes near to us in our humanity, in our flaws and our imperfections, because it's in our imperfections that the hope of God shines brightest. It's in those second chances and do-overs and in mercy and forgiveness that light comes into the world. I don't know if the shepherds sat outside every night, night after night, and looked at the stars in the sky and wondered. I don't know if they stared up at the sky and thought about their significance or their place in the universe, or if they looked at the stars and saw them as simple pinpoints of light and said, I guess I am as insignificant as those tiny little points of light in the night sky. I don't know whether every day they woke up and they recognized the futility of their life. That yesterday was the same as today, and today would be the same as tomorrow, and it would be that way until the day they died, generation after generation, that they were locked into this meaningless existence. I don't know if they thought that, but I know we do. I know that when we look up at the stars, we marvel at our insignificance, and we may even wonder about their significance. But you know what a star is? Star is this amazing, miraculous centrifuge of energy that creates heat and light in the darkness and the void of space. It is a gravitational center that brings order to solar systems and to galaxies and order to the universe. That single star, the brightness and the light of it gives light and life in the dark. The shepherds were stars in the story of redemption, just as we are. You see, he came to us, to the real us, not to the famous us, not to the star-studded us, but to the real us. Because his hope shines brightest through our limitations and our imperfections and our inadequacies. This is when his hope shines brightest, through the real us. You notice these stars up here hanging in the ceiling? You may look at them and go, wow, there are not many of them up there because that's a big space. And you may think, well, how big can those be? Well, they're pretty big. They're actually pretty large. And they have to be to fill up that space. And you see, when you get close to them, you realize how amazing they are, how beautiful they can be. And the closer you get to them, the more significant they appear. This is the first time this has happened. I'm trying to make a point here, star. Stay. We are the ones to whom God came close, to whom God came near, because he sees us as we are. And because of that, he calls us to shine in a dark world. And if there was ever a world that needed the light of hope that we celebrate today, it's our world. And the way he shines through us is not through our perfection, not through our fame, but through our humanity. He came close to us, to the real us, so that we could be stars in the story of redemption. This Christmas, shine like the stars that you are. He came for the real us. Merry Christmas.
Are singing, bells are ringing, presents line the tree, and it all looks fine this Christmas time, but something's pulling me. Am I good enough? Will I do enough? Will you find me in the mess? 'Cause on this night I see my life, and is this success? Angels sing,
Even though we may extinguish these lights we hold in our hands, may the light of Christ and his hope never be extinguished in us. Let your light so shine before men that they might know of the hope that you have. Shine brightly this Christmas. Go in peace. Have a very Merry Christmas.